Yeah.
It's
That's
just
right.
There's nobody online that's interested in speaking. So right to the financial reports.
Obviously, I haven't seen them yet, so.
It's the same one that you sent out in email. I mean, the ones that are on attached to your email. The overages and stuff.
I did not receive.
No, that was kind of just like a communication about, just what resolutions that you wanted to
Right.
talk about. On the agenda. But no, I didn't. So the budget report, we just ran it this morning because I had to show Josh how to do it. We've just kind of been a little behind because I'm trying to train people on year end processes and then so just a little slower than normal. There are some overages that probably need to be addressed. I think just a couple small ones in the general fund. And then highway has some that we can talk about that later.
So the only negative I've seen so far is the zoning board.
The zoning board, yeah.
Actual, which I think is that on your agenda. That's just.
I don't know if
You know about that
specifically
one.
what it was.
Oh, it wasn't on the agenda, so it's also in the report we sent out. But does anyone know the story on that? I was asking Jared, is it cell tower or
Cell tower or solar,
solar?
I know they have had several work going on.
They're
So
way
they're-
over, right?
That's paying for a legal. The contractual, it's not their salaries or.
No,
It's
yeah.
contractual.
Yeah, there's always much.
Yeah, you also have your, even though I remember we increased it last year, the attorney contractual is also kind of low.
Yeah, that's 30,000, it's about 6, I think.
Yeah, you've got about
We've been keeping,
12% left for the.
Yeah. but we're gonna go over on that. I mean, there's a couple of things that are up still, so. But I don't think there's any way around that. I think we're just gonna allocate some more money.
Well, we increased it last year, you probably synced it up again then.
Yeah, sure.
There's a large overage on the highways.
Yeah,
And I do have some things that to propose for that.
And that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
In terms of the dollars, some of the other overages are minor contract amounts or smaller amounts, but then when there's a. Does that go through here? That's the largest one that I see. So far.
Jen, did
Not to
you-
put you on the spot, but. I see that we're over on the highway, that one line item, I think it's.
5110 over by 100 and some odd thousand.
Yeah.
We also have.
I'm trying to think.
The. Not requisition, it's encumbrances,
Mhm.
that's still. Wait to make sure all the invoices have came in before we close them out. So that number will come down. I just gotta make sure there's enough money. That those have came in before we close those out, so.
Yeah, we
I
have,
think we'll have a better idea in November, cause. Pretty much done with all our big stuff.
I think there's 179,000 in encumbrances,
So,
yeah, 100,
yeah.
180,000 really.
Yeah, just about.
so, yes, I'm over, but. Let's see what we can close out once we make sure we got all the invoices in. Okay, and then the 5130 line, that's over by 30,000.
Yeah.
But that's also, we've had. When I say repairs, you have to remember that everything goes through that line to get repaired. So some expenses we don't expect to have to repair, including fire trucks. So we do get money back for that, but this will go back into that line. So
Yeah, because it's recorded as a revenue, not an offset.
not an offset, so I think we'll be fine, John. So,
Yeah, you're that's tax.
okay, we'll be fine. It's just a matter of how we pay out and where it comes back in, it'll always reflect. I think November will be a lot better understanding where we're at.
What do
It
you?
won't be worse than this though.
No, it won't be worse. No,
Yeah, just a question.
no.
Your CM 100 part contractual is off 152, so.
Revenue line, What is that?
Yeah, I don't know if
Okay.
that's. I don't know if we put something.
I don't see, we've been using HH lines for those and stuff, but parties and.
Oh, was it that, that's something I just, yeah.
Back up.
Oh, yes, shit, about that.
And then
Yeah, so
the
much
planner is
else.
pretty much gone, which is odd because she's pretty much gone.
Yes, I think we did a budget transfer out of her.
Oh, you
out
did,
that
okay,
line.
good, all right.
That's
Making
not
sure
what
that
it
was-
Yes. Oh, my God.
Be unusual to spend that.
Yeah, like, why are we on the road? And of course, the town hall building kind of is pretty low, but I think I know why that's low.
Jim, did you ever find out about $50,000 grant?
Yeah, we're looking for public works. So, it's on our agenda. I did talk to Brad about it. We're gonna pay 5,000 of it. We will be reimbursed for the balance.
Do you know if it'll be in 25?
How about I answer that on Friday for you?
On Friday, that'll be
I
super
won't,
helpful.
I know you won't be here, but we'll have a better answer for you, because that's,
You'll have a better answer for the town. Okay, I was,
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Greg will have an answer for us.
if it comes in this year, it can go in as an offset to that expense, but if it doesn't come, that line will be negative or whatever.
Okay.
And then the revenue will go in next year, that prior year. Revenue, prior year. The refund of prior year.
I understand today's your last day.
It is.
I just want to say thank you for all you've done and I have enjoyed working with you.
Yeah.
And I wish you a lot of luck.
It's gonna be hard shoes to fill, because we appreciate all your knowledge and stuff that you bring, your thing, it's always. T's crossed and I's dotted, we really appreciate that as a committee.
Well, especially when we didn't have a manager too, and we were asking all of our questions. All these things.
Well, it's been a pleasure working here for sure, and I'm gonna miss everybody.
You're gonna miss the drive.
No.
Not, I was just telling Lindsay this morning, I worked a couple extra days in the office, and I think I've driven about 24 hours in the last week and a half. So it's a lot.
How long does it take you to get here in the morning?
An hour and a half. So it's a
She used to be
3-hour
close.
commute daily. Yeah, I used to only live a half an hour away.
Yeah.
But, you know, life takes you
Yeah,
where it takes you,
Fun
and,
direction.
you know, and,
I'm sorry, but not surprised.
yeah.
Do you know where you're going?
Yeah, I took a position as the deputy treasurer at Cuyahoga County. So,
They're very lucky in you.
much closer.
that Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm still gonna call you.
we might still have to call you.
Yeah, yeah, we got that covered for sure, so.
Are there any other glaring issues with the
Well, now that I know she's leaving.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me, everybody.
I'm sorry, I know John had sent out an email, I think the day that I put in my notice, I did check to see exactly who he sent it to.
It's okay. I don't know. I'll just be horrible and mean to whoever replaces you.
Please don't.
John, speaking of that, is there anybody that you've got in the wings to?
We did an interview yesterday, we got another interview we're trying to schedule for next week. So, and we got a lot of applicants, only two, maybe three actually have finance clerk, two backgrounds, so.
That's an important
That
issue,
is.
to got into this job, I mean. Jess can tell us that, there's a lot that we lean on her for, so
Oh, I know.
we can't.
Okay.
Train somebody up too much
Right, we
on that deal.
kind of talked about it yesterday, like
Where,
when the position, when I started a few years ago, the position was a finance clerk too,
It's
and
not really,
it's
it's
kind
not
of
anymore.
grown quite a bit
Right.
from that, and, you know, not that a title makes any difference when you're already here, but when you're looking to replace someone, you know, that may not be the best pool to reflect what you're looking for, I guess, but, you know, that's what we have, that's the position we have available here at the time, so.
You have someone doing the bookkeeping?
We have, we kind of divvied things up. Courtney and Alyssa are taking over, putting in the invoices and some other processes. That they've been trained on. Tammy Grace, from the development office is doing some of the other processes. Lindsay is doing some, John is doing some, especially the banking side of things, so. We've been doing a lot of training the last couple weeks, some Zoom recordings so that there's reference back to how things are going. And I did, you know, agree to be available outside of my work hours there to answer questions or help out any way I can, so.
yeah, so everybody's aware, we are. Transition her to a part-time position for the time being until we can transition her out. So that if we need her during off hours for anything, we can pay her. So,
Good.
I didn't wanna leave, you know, like, hi, everybody high and dry,
Right,
you
right,
know, like,
yeah.
I do appreciate, you know, and I feel.
You'd be the new Kate.
Right, I just, it's a big role to fill and there's not you can't teach everything and I just want things to get too chaotic and
Neither do we.
messy.
And
So,
maybe some of those hours could be used when we hire a new person to kind of onboard.
yeah, we discussed that as potentially, you know, whoever it is. This would be willing to take Saturday, if this person would be able to come in on a Saturday to just do a day of some training. So, yeah, but we're gonna go through. Today's a couple more things gotta go through Jess, we're gonna try to do a final checklist to make sure we got all the immediate needs covered, knowing what's gotta be done for certain things, but we'll manage. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the role is essentially a fiscal manager role, I know I discussed it in my email. And that's, unfortunately, right now, we don't have time to really seek that, create a position for that. It would require additional, more funding than what's in the budget right now for the position. And so, we're just gonna try to plug and play but find a person who has the ability to grow into that position is what, I'm looking for, somebody who can be an immediate. Finance clerk two duties, somebody who's already finance clerk two. It's still gonna be learning curve, because wherever they are, they're doing things differently.
Right.
And then, but have that potential for growth into all those additional things that. That we want this position to do until we ultimately can. Create a fiscal manager to position over the next couple of years, it's not an immediate thing that's gonna happen.
Not a next year thing,
No,
okay.
so. But,
That's big loss, Jess.
Yeah,
Thanks for bringing it up.
thank you.
so,
so,
manage,
maybe highway budget overages, the closing the H38, H39.
So depending on where things land, I guess, I mean, so this really isn't something that I had looked into, I wasn't really thinking about the encumbrances, but, so I guess where things land, we do have funds that we set aside, a couple of years ago into two different capital projects. One being the highway capital improvement project, capital project. Highway road improvements, that's got like $9,000 in it. Honestly, that kind of really falls in line with what. You know, he's using the funds for. We also have the Complete Streets Capital Project.
Let's
There's-
remember. Though, that we're
using
using,
some of that.
use 100,000 of that
North Road.
for the North Road
Okay.
bond in the budget.
Okay,
It's in the
so
budget.
there's 186,000 in that right now, so if you needed a few dollars. Under
Both.
the 100, there, you know, that's someplace that, that was just created by resolution. It's not a reserve, so you could just write a resolution to do a budget transfer. Get it, instead of using unassigned fund balance, cause I know highway doesn't have a ton of unassigned fund balance, and we kinda have a plan for that too. So. Are we on to the resolution or the other, I didn't even pull up my
Yeah,
agenda.
So we'll kind of wait on that, Jim, till we figure out what the,
Wait till November.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, cause remember,
Let's
we
go.
we discussed 100,000 of that going towards the North Road bond and, or into the bond reserve. So that we can, taper down the tax levy for the North Road bond over the next, 70 years.
So 100,000 of 186.
Now, is that something that was budgeted in 26, or is it something you discussed for 25?
But that's something that we discussed in for the 2026 budget.
Yeah, it's in there
If you're-
now.
Okay,
Yeah, remember I showed, when I was going through the
yeah,
charts with you to show. That we would, and I asked you if that amount would be good and, we would leave the other 86 for whatever. And then that helps build that debt reserve along with what we're levying this year for North Road. To then taper down that, the tax levy impact for the
So
bond and. So we can pay the principal and interest next year rather than just trying to
Mhm.
do an interest payment and then spike in 2027 to cover principal and interest.
Right.
Well, that won't be
what's that stuff?
on the van 271.
we're kind of holding on that.
Well,
Yeah.
we're pulling $100,000 will get transferred into the bond if the budget's approved that way, we'll get transferred into the bond reserve. So then that will leave 86,000 and change left in that capital project, that in the Complete Streets project for whatever else, Jim needs to do with it, so.
But the highway road improvement, gonna close that,
You could,
I mean, it's 9,000, you said, well,
yeah,
just move that to,
Unless you're planning to refund it, refund it.
well,
well, and I know like John's bigger plan is to create these. Reserves and do capital instead of CIP plans instead,
Yes.
so, yes. If there's only a little bit in there, you might as well just close it now and then.
Cause there's more ability with creating those,
Therapies, yeah.
yeah, those capital projects.
Do we wait on that 9,000 till Jim gets, what,
I think in November we'll find out.
yeah, so why don't we wait?
Jim can spend $9,000.
Well,
Well, we might as well wait till- wait and-
I don't.
Good,
I was asked about lights on North Road on the sidewalk, but. Like cool put, I'll tell people to put solar lights out there if they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you use for every property owner, but they put it in like this.
This was, Coyle,
Oh,
yeah, he was happy. Not even a town, he was
just curious.
just out there, he's curious, yeah.
It's just streetlights at intersections on them.
Yeah.
right?
Good for all
Right.
that. I don't necessarily like to.
are we gonna have the reevaluation discussion?
So, I sent all that documentation, I don't know if there's specific questions from what was sent, so that Michelle could be more prepared on exactly what. Is needed to present, mainly that's why I wanted to leave it on this agenda, even though she's not here to present it, and I know the discussion was probably best for your fifth board member to have the full presentation, so we don't have to do it twice. I also just wanted, there was another document that she had mentioned, or that she gave me, I forgot in my office, but. I was gonna bring, it just shows that Since 1987, town has done regular revals every 3 or 4 years, I think it was.
It's not true.
Or-
Um,
The last reval we didn't do for, I wanna say, probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I think that was the one that was out of.
That was one that was out of line, that was out of.
Yeah, so prior to that, I guess, was, and I don't have that on me, but so really, I just left it on there to have, to be able to take any questions, any specific questions, to bring back to her, and also just to, kind of give you a quick idea of what I think we'll discuss at the budget, public hearing, as regarding the funds that are in there now for GAR and for the positions where, the data collectors, because I know there's hesitancy to have that, to have the position creation associated with the budget. I still recommend that we create the positions, because if you decide to do the reval, say you make that decision in January and we don't have those positions created already, we're already behind.
Right.
By 6 months. We need those positions in our stockpile of other unfunded positions. So to make it enough, to make them unfunded positions, to just get them on our books. I mean, we have pages of positions in our books that we don't actually utilize, but they're there in case we need them. And we don't have to go through the process with county when we do have, when we, the board ever decides to fund certain positions. The money that's in the budget is 65,000 for GAR, 20,000 for data collectors. So we can
What's
remove,
our,
it's the company that's gonna do the commercial side of
Commercial appraisal,
Or
or
Oh,
appraisal.
so you're not using the county for that?
The county is using GAR now too for that commercial
okay.
stuff.
So we can take that money and there's two options, I would say, we cut out a lot of things. From the budget, park related, that we can refund those things with those funds, and then if you decide to do the reval. Make that budget transfer all over again, just remove the things again and switch them to those two items, or you can put it in the contingency. And in the same manner, then if you decide to do the reval, then just remove that money from contingency to fund the positions and fund the contract. That would be just the recommendation, again, if, I know the contingency right now is set at 100,000, so. I know there was thoughts too of not wanting to just create a random contingency amount in order to tax based on what we may or may not do. And that's why the other option, I think, would be, there are plenty of other things we can do that we cut from the budget to utilize that money, and then if you don't do the reval, then we are still doing items that this board wants to do. But we know that if you do the reval, then those are items that were already cut, so they're lower on the priority list, so they can be cut again to do the reval. So those would be my recommendations, rather than removing the money from the budget completely, because then if you decide to do the reval, then. You're gonna have to pull the money from somewhere
Right.
else to.
So we'll stay on target, on task if we fund it that way, and if we decide not to do the reval, then we'll just find out.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with that, and I'm gonna make an issue of that, and I will. Make an issue of this publicly, and I think it's wrong that we wanna do a reval. Start a reval process within 2 years of when we did it last. And we're gonna go and tax people an additional $85,000 to go and potentially raise their taxes. And Jared got up at our last meeting, at the board meeting, and said that the equalization rate is probably less of a hindrance on our current taxpayers than doing a reval. So it makes absolutely no sense to me why we wanna do this. And the question I brought forth was, and I still have not had an answer, when we did our reval last time, 2 years ago, were more people impacted with an increase in taxes than were impacted with a decrease in taxes? And I certainly am not gonna support it if more people were taxed a greater tax than were reduced in taxes. And that's the question. And I think that we ought to have that data before we go and start having this conversation in earnest.
I've asked Michelle to provide I know she's gonna provide that information. I also asked her to pick 5 or 6 grant sample homes from the last reval that we did.
Mhm.
And run their numbers, cause you can't predict in the future what the assessment's gonna be, but you can do based on the known. Take that data at that period and say, okay, had we not done a reval. At their assessed value at that time with an equalization rate, what would they have paid in
So
taxes?
that's a fair
And do a,
way to look at it.
and do a variety, 5 different levels of homes, and then do that same thing. With the reval and the lower tax rate, what would that have done to those 5 homes?
And I agree with that. That would be substantive data.
So that's
that would
what I'm
help us,
hoping.
She's created that.
Evaluate whether a reval is beneficial to the community taxpayer or whether it's not. And quite honestly, we brought this up at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. And I would think that we'd have some of that data before us as we speak, so that we could have a educated conversation about it.
She's created the data, there's data that she has, but, again, I know. I thought what the discussion was that you wanted to have these discussions with the 5-member board. So,
Sounds like you should probably have a 4-member board too.
Yeah, you gotta have it with a 4-member board because we're gonna be voting on a budget very shortly, and if you're gonna go and put positions in the budget and. Stow money away in the budget to accommodate this in the future, when we haven't even had a conversation whether that is beneficial thing for us to do. It's gonna be pretty difficult conversation. And
But
it's
if we
pretty
don't
difficult
do
time of
that-
year to have the conversation, particularly with the elections coming up.
If we don't do that, we're behind the 8 ball for doing a reeval.
yeah, we already,
If we wanna do a reval 3 years after we've done it originally, I mean. To me, that timing just doesn't work. What other communities are doing this regularly?
Well, we
Like
used
that
to,
as well.
other than the last one, we did that.
And it didn't hurt us in any way to do it or not do it. Well, let me say it this way. We don't know if it hurt our
We
average
don't know, right.
taxpayer or it didn't hurt our
Right.
average taxpayer. And that is vital information for us to have an educated conversation about
I
this.
can tell you anecdotally, so my house was revaled about 40,000 under the average, which was that, what, 410, 400. Mine went down slightly, and other people who asked me to get it specifically for them, I had a friend with $120,000 house, hers went way down, so it should be pretty close to where that average is. Anybody that was under that average home price, their taxes probably went down a little bit. Anybody above that average home price, they went up.
Can I say mathematically, this is the way my brain works, if we need to collect $5 million, you would ask. You know, how
Say
many,
that again, please?
you had asked how many people's taxes went up,
Versus how many people's taxes went down.
correct, so if I need to collect $5 million. It's,
If you need to collect $5 million for.
You need an
For the
example,
budget.
this is just an
it's
example.
okay, so we're gonna tax the taxpayers $5 million for property tax. It's, if some people's taxable amount goes up and some people's goes down, you're only divvying up who is paying what.
You're not educating me about that. I
Okay.
already understand that. Bottom line is, were more
So-
taxpayers negatively influenced with an increase
It
in
would be-
taxes? Or were more people positively in?
Yeah, but it would be,
You're telling me, based on what you're saying right now, it's even. I
It
don't
is.
believe that's the case.
It-
I
it
wanna
would
see
have
the
to be.
data. Show me the data.
I
And if you
think the
should-
data
if
is
you-
how much tax we collected.
No, I wanna know of the taxpayers. There's 3,500 residences in the town of Canandaigua. Am I right when I say that?
Right.
Okay. Were 1,750 of them taxed positively and 1,750 of them taxed negatively? That's what you're saying. I don't believe that's the case, and I want the data. And it doesn't, we can have this conversation until the cows come home, but until we have the data,
need
we
to see
can't
it in front of
substantiate
us.
any of it.
We can't,
so the data has been worked on, now I just. Want everybody to remember, this was. Discussed in finance, we were told to go forward with it, we worked it into the budget, only last month were we told was this all changed now, so. There just hasn't been enough time with everything else that's going on with trying to brain from everybody with just leaving to get. Everything, and then with Michelle not being here, 'cause she's at a conference already scheduled, to have brought that data to this meeting. To get a full presentation, I don't understand half of it. So I can't present it to you. So. Yes, we're on a time crunch, if you wanted to lump it into the budget, which is why my suggestion is to completely remove it from the budget, have those conversations. But I guess then I need to know though, then is the intent, if you don't wanna fund. If you don't wanna add that 85,000 budget, now let's remember, we cut. Many requests from the budget, then we would, so we basically would have a flat tax rate then. Going into 2026, so is that the intent to stick with a flat tax rate? To completely exclude this the reval from the budget, it's too late to. It's too late to try to work this into the budget without these discussions and without the data being collected. So it's either we have the money in the budget in some other way and we maintain our $1.20 proposed tax rate. Or we go with a flat tax rate, and then if you decide to do the reval, then we gotta pull money from somewhere else.
So I have a
to
question,
do it.
are you talking about, if you fund it, are you talking about adding an amount in, or are you talking about cutting
Right now,
something to pay for that?
That's in there right now,
Right.
it's in the budget because that's the direction we were given at finance committee, was to add this into the budget.
Okay.
So.
I would leave it in,
I would vote to leave
put
it
it
in.
in contingency. And I would ask for those 4 positions, start that process with the county. At some point, we're gonna have a reval. Having those positions pre-approved would expedite that process.
Well, it just
That's
gets
what I would
us,
vote for.
we're not behind the 8 ball, I agree with Terry.
So
I
I
don't
think,
understand what we're behind the 8 ball for.
I don't either, but John just said that, he knows.
How can we go and say we're behind the 8 ball if we don't even know what we're
The
behind?
next election is to start in March.
so,
Right.
yeah, so behind the 8 ball, there, it may, what that, I think there are 2 8 balls that we're talking about being behind. One, I think, what Dave or somebody might be talking about is behind the process, if we roll forward with that reval. If we don't, so if the reval gets put off,
Let me just try to ask the question a different way. Do you really think you wanna go before the public before November 5th and tell the public
But
that
it's-
we wanna do a reval?
but
And that you support that position?
but creating creating these positions
Yes.
doesn't say that, all it does
You
is.
know what, when you create the position, you're gonna use it. That's bottom line. And we're putting $85,000 of
We have
taxable
other
dollars.
positions.
We have $85,000 of taxable money that we are putting in the budget. To tax people more, potentially.
Mhm.
I just
Or
think,
tax people less.
But if it's,
we don't know.
so I
They
think,
don't know.
I think we're talking about unknowns right now, we
Right.
don't have the data,
We don't have the data.
so I think. This probably needs to be tabled until we have that data and have the budget discussion. And then we can make that decision, cause I know
I
that
agree with that.
you need the numbers in front, and I wanna be able to see those too. To see where we're going with that and what that impact is.
Absolutely.
I know Victor. Has been putting off their reval for they're going on like probably 8 years now, they're under 70%. Farmington is now doing them every 2 years, they're doing their revaluations every 2 years. To try to keep up with, just to keep things at 100%, and that's their goal, and that's the decision that they made, so. Municipalities do different things. And it's all, again, at the end of the day, it's all up to what the board says, but. If we wait until if we wait till our next budget meeting and have that discussion, we should have the numbers in front of us. Make that decision. But if we don't include those data collectors, then it puts the whole process off at a minimum of a year. So if that new board, if a 5-member board comes in, when 5 are here and the decision as well, let's roll ahead with a reval. Then it's next year.
So you got up before the public at our last board meeting. And you told the public that the equalization rate was probably more tax beneficial to the community than a complete reval.
That is correct.
And my question then is, what's the difference? Why do we need to go and force a reval in year 3? We'll do it in year 4, year 5, doesn't matter really. We're still getting taxed the same amount of money. We're still paying our debts to the town, right? And the town is functioning, so what's the reasoning why we wanna even do this?
I think it comes down to
Fairness.
those who are. Keep coming and clamoring for the reval are the ones that say that the $400,000 house that you put on the market and you sell it for $400,000 or 420. They're pretty much paying their full share of that amount of that tax rate. They're carrying 100% of their tax burden for the town.
Correct.
And I've had people come in and say, then you take those house, the $2 million, $3 million house on the lake that sells for 6 million. Is it worth 3 million or is it worth 6 million? And if it's assessed at 3, but it sells at 6, they're saying then that homeowner with that homeowner on the lake is not carrying that 100% burden of that tax rate.
And I understand that conversation
Yeah.
and I understand that
And we
argument
need to see
completely. However, I am undecided as to
Right.
whether we need a revale or don't need a revale. I'm saying put the data on the table so that we can have an educated conversation about it.
We get, every month, we get a report from Michelle showing previous month's sales versus assessment. Rarely does something sell for less than it's assessed for. Generally speaking, it's more, and it's 5 to 50% more. So those people that are selling those houses for 600,000, that's assessed for 400,000, they're paying it to 400,000, not to 6. So to me, they're skating on that 200,000. The rest of the people are picking up whatever the tax levy burden reflects. So
The converse argument or the flip side of that coin,
That-
Terry, is when you have homes, let's say a home's valued at 400,000. That home sells for 600,000. Their increase in property taxes just went up 150%.
not theirs,
It doesn't,
no, it's in because they sold it. they're no longer there.
But the property value, the tax on that home now has gone up 50%.
no, they don't do
So
that.
now if you get a lakefront home that's valued at 3 million and sells for 4 million, the value of the taxes on that particular property just went up
They
25%
do not.
versus
they do
the
not do
home that was sold for
Yeah.
400, 600 went up 50%.
That's simple math, I understand that.
And I believe,
My point is that if you don't do revals in a market that is accelerating rapidly, then everything is out of whack. I think the people on the lower end are the ones that get screwed.
Mhm.
They're paying more.
Right.
Than the people on the upper end. If you leave that upper end and let it just keep riding up. Those people are not paying that. You let it go for a few years and it keeps accelerating, then all that period of time. A reval is only valid for that one point in time. The
that's right,
next day,
that's
it's
right.
out of whack.
And they do an equalization
gets
rate
you
to
as
accommodate
close-
for that.
It gets you as close as
We
you
don't
can
do
to
equal
reality.
On the state.
So we can continue this discussion.
I think we need
forever.
data, we need data.
We need
But-
that.
Yeah.
But we need to make a decision about this $85,000.
Yeah, I mean, and. No, I brought it up because we're gonna have a public hearing about it and then go into our budget workshop on the 27th, the very next meeting, to make whatever changes that come out of that discussion with the public hearing. And so I'm just trying to get ahead of it so that this is hashed out as far as what we're gonna do with it. So completely separate from the reval is all I'm trying to bring up is what we wanna do, the money we did not fund a lot of things. That are board priorities. Because that was included in the budget to begin with, so that, Brent brought the budget up. Because that was the direction we were given, so. My only question here is what the desire of the board is going to be come the next budget workshop for that 85,000. To separate it from these discussions. Do you wanna fund other things in the budget? And you can make budget adjustments, then you have room to make budget adjustments if you decide to do the reval. Do you want it in contingency? Or whatever you wanna do with it. I also am going to highly recommend the positions be created. John, we have like probably 35 positions on the books that we don't fund. So it is not true that just because we have the positions that we're going to fund them. It is completely separate, the civil service pool of positions is completely separate from anything budget related. It is an operational thing that helps us to make things more efficient if and when those positions come funded or to make decisions operationally, whether we're gonna have a finance clerk too or a fiscal manager. If we had a fiscal manager on the books right now, we can make that decision.
Go there,
If we, you know, it's, we've been making those decisions with clerks and office administrators, we can't find people on the, we can't find qualified candidates from the clerks list, so, okay. We have office administrator positions, let's change the title to try to get a whole new pool of people. Because these are all civil service positions that are tested. And they have specific pools of people for each position. So the creation of the positions without money funded in the budget for those positions can be completely separate from this process and will help make our operations more efficient if and when the decision is made for the reval.
We're talking about our tax levy going, or tax rate going from $1.15 to $1.20, the 5 cent increase. I have no problem, I'm running for reelection this year. I have no problem facing anybody in justifying that increase. I would leave the numbers the same, take the 86,000, put it in contingency. And next year, a 5-member board will figure out where to spend it. We never have a problem spending money. I find a place for it.
And I think with the understanding that if that full board in 2026 votes for the reval, then that would happen. If not, with the understanding that there are plenty of things that Greg got cut off from. Things that we wanted to do, things that the community values, things that people have requested, people maintenance things, upkeep things, we're putting off building maintenance. With the understanding that if there's no reval, that money goes into maintaining what we have. And it's not just padding it, that it's there and it goes into something that we cut from Greg to maintain the building and the structures that we have, so our insurance rates don't go up, because we don't want that to happen. So.
Or you could use the $85,000 to pay for the $100,000 bond we just talked about earlier, that was gonna extend till, what was it, 2027 or 20?
We could do, there are multiple things that we do with
There's plenty of
that, but
places
the
to spend the
knowledge
money.
that,
Because just a coincidental similarity in values.
right, we could roll that to help offset some of the future payments for, there are multiple things, so it's not just a slush fund.
I understand.
We'd have it earmarked for A or B or C, and then it can be a decision.
Yeah.
Well,
is-
you know, we can go on like
I know
this
we can go-
forever,
we
and
can't do
you're not
anything.
telling me anything I don't already
We can't
know.
do anything until we have
Bottom
those
line
numbers.
is, we
in
need
front.
the data.
So
Yeah.
the action step is that we're gonna leave it where it is and we're gonna wait for the public hearing to see what happens. And then whether we do a reevaluate or not will be up to the new board in 26, correct? Because the budget's already prepared, it's already in
Budget's
there,
prepared, it's there, preliminary hearing, I
Yep.
can't touch until after the public hearing.
Right.
Mhm.
So after so right now it is itemized for those positions and for GAR. And so it can, after the public hearing closes, then we can remove those itemizations, put that money wherever else you decide you wanna put it. And again, that's why I bring that up, so that we can, cause we're gonna bring that. We have to do the resolution for those positions, those tabled. And so they will be unfunded positions at that point after the preliminary hearing. Or
And even if
as
it's
law speak,
Public-
the preliminary.
the public hearing, that preliminary
public
budget.
hearing on the too many Ps.
Makes
But
some
if,
jobs.
I mean, if those positions, those eventually someday there will be a reval needed and done. Whether it's next year, whether it's the year after, 5 years, 10 years, but those positions would be there.
And let me just clarify the quick question about being behind the ball means with those positions, is it could potentially take. We've seen positions take 6 months for the county to say, okay, we create these positions for you. That's why we're requesting them now to put them through the process for the county. They could come in a month, but we've seen them also take 6 months. So if we wait to create them until you make your decision, if that's January, February, the data collection needs to start in March in order to, according to Michelle, to do a reval. So that's what I mean by being behind. That is all we mean by being behind, is that you will you won't have those positions to start the process.
I wouldn't take them off too, when you're done with the reval, just leave them in there unfilled.
Well, yeah, that's typically what we try to do, is rather than abolishing positions.
But we didn't use them,
Last, right?
we didn't use them last time.
So,
We use the county for a lot of that data collection, contracted with the county for that, which isn't. Didn't really, this
Didn't
is
work.
continuing.
All right, moving to the next, short-term rental owner.
That,
Do you have the,
Yeah, so
so John and Kristen received a request from a property owner and it's outlined here. I'm gonna slaughter it if I try to go
Let
into a lot of
Kristen-
depth.
so
Kristen knows the details. It's a request for a fee,
waiver.
fee waiver. Okay, Kristen, you'll use better words than I will.
Alright. So Mr. Whitmore applied for a short-term rental permit in 2023, which was issued. At that time, the short-term rental law only allowed 2 people per bedroom. So he was issued a permit for 12 guests only. He has a really big house. He wanted a higher occupancy, but our law at the time limited it. So then in May, the next year, we adopted the new short-term rental law. Occupancy with that law is based on the dimension of the bedrooms. So this would allow for a greater occupancy. So he wanted to go ahead and get that permit. Which he applied for. His house is huge, so it would allow for over 12 occupants, which under the new law requires a special use permit. So he had to go through that process too. So he was granted the special use permit and the new short-term rental permit under our current law. The fee for the short-term rental permit was waived. For the second short-term rental permit, so the $300 fee was waived. Which is allowed one time. Now he's applying for renewal. And he doesn't want to pay the $300 for the renewal because he feels that he lost income in 2024. When he had the reduced occupancy.
Do we know what his income was in 2024?
I would imagine in one night he
Yeah.
got well, $900.
$300,
So we also waived, how much was it? The chargeback fee, 900?
It was, yeah, around.
We also waived a significant fee, for chargebacks that we've done for a few people, understanding that it was, these likely were really not needed to go in front of MRB to have an engineer decide if a room is big enough to hold a certain number of people.
Right.
So we agreed with that, with multiple people, there's no reason for some of these short-term rentals to have MRB look at it. And charge to write a resolution to say, yep, this can fit 12 people. And write a resolution for us, so we also waived that $900 fee. But he's made the request to the supervisor to waive another fee, so we want to bring it in front of finance. Cause the board would have to ultimately authorize the additional refund if you choose to.
But I'm a no vote on that. I mean, I think you can pay $300.
Any others?
And for the finance committee, I
Yep.
think that's completely ridiculous.
Thoughts?
I don't understand the justification for him asking for a refund. Under one ordinance, he was allowed to make this much money, and under a new ordinance, he's allowed to make
More.
more money. And if, he asking for back lost revenue, I think is a.
And the way it was explained to me, because I think I sent off the email. He didn't mention the $900 engineering fee waived unless he wasn't aware of it.
But that's the right thing to do, no matter who that comes from.
He didn't, what I'm saying is he didn't mention that, but also it's made it seem like. That he lost a year or something with the re-permitting process, that because he had to re-permit, then he lost the time that he had. And he was forced to re-permit it, but it doesn't really,
But he would have been.
it doesn't really hold water with
It's renting
this
for 12
explanation.
people.
Yeah, he's still dealing with the rent.
12 to 18, that's the difference, right? I mean,
He's
that's
still
the
dealing with the
law,
rent,
right?
it wasn't like.
Still renting.
Right, he's been renting for 12 all along.
He's probably spent more, whatever he values his time is. Probably more than $300.
Agreed, right? So it doesn't look like that's gonna
Sounds
go.
good. Denies that.
Resolution. To move the unassigned fund balance to the retirement reserves,
So this is a result of, we discussed before, our auditors did realize that our tax reserve was higher than the comptroller allowed, so they had me do an adjusting entry and they moved on, during their audit, we moved those funds to unassigned fund balance so that we were in compliance for the tax reserve. So now there's an extra 500 and some $1,000 in the unassigned fund balance, which we want to use instead because it was in our budget. If we leave it out, our budget's totally out of whack. So we want to move that to the retirement reserve.
which is 350, was that, I remember,
Let's see.
I thought that was.
We figured this out like 2 meetings ago.
We did, but we didn't actually do a resolution to
Oh,
take
okay.
the unassigned fund balance and move it where we had discussed putting it, so. It was.
Transfer 350,000.
Yeah. Yes,
So let me ask you a question about that. The unassigned fund balance, is that flexible money? That could be used on a multitude of different things? And if you take $350,000 and you put it into the retirement reserve, it has to be used for retirement benefits?
yes, which we will do, so. We had budgeted to use $350,000 of the tax reserve to offset the tax levy last year. So, because now that $350,000 isn't in that reserve, we wanted to move it into a different reserve and find a place to actually. That we can match up in expenditures. Okay, cause in
So what
the
you're telling me is
2025
there's not
budget,
enough money in the retirement reserve right now.
correct.
Or
And
that we
need
just
to-
haven't funded it.
Right,
Right.
we need to, yes, we need to replace the 350,000 that was taken out, yes, out technically. Right out of the budget to put that in. It's just paperwork.
And this stems from the tax stabilization reserve that we had there that we
It
realized that we
was
couldn't have.
overfunded. It was
Yeah,
We had too
that
much money.
was- Yeah, so.
So basically, yes, we
Let
just
it
need to
go.
do a resolution to say, yes, it's okay to move that money to this reserve instead, so that we have money in a reserve that we can actually use in the budget as.
As intended.
As intended towards an expense in the 25 budget.
We do plan on spending that tax stabilization reserve down towards retirement reserve as well.
Next year,
In
Right, 'cause we're-
2026 budget, you
right.
can't use it for anything else other than. Retirement reserve, they've completely restricted the use of that fund, so, we have like $1 million in there.
Yeah.
So,
right,
And we thought that putting the money in there, we'd be able to use it if we had a bad tax year, transfer that in.
Yeah.
But there are so many hoops with that, it's
Yeah.
nearly impossible to be able to access that money to go into your general operating to lower your tax rate.
you can only really use it unless the federal and state government don't give you money that they said they
Yeah,
were gonna
right.
give you.
Yeah.
Basically.
so the way
The
that
unassigned funds?
No,
No,
tax-
the
tax-
tax
tax
stabilization reserve, so
So-
we created that funded it, only to realize that through the comptroller that. There are too many strings with that money, and this is the only other place we can.
We
put
were
it.
advised by our prior town manager that if we put money there, we could use it towards anything we wanted to keep the tax rate down, and that is.
Which was not-
Correct.
Yeah, and so,
Just the way it was interpreted, we've realized that, there's different
Things are interpreted in
interpretations.
different way, yeah.
but we gotta go by the comptroller, the way the comptroller says.
Comptroller's interpretation is probably the most
Is the
important.
correct.
It's what matters.
So the way,
Don't change just the interpretation.
yeah, so the way to be able to utilize that money to help keep the tax levy down. Is through this one loophole that it does have to where you can utilize it for retirement reserves. So each year for whatever the total retirement reserve number is that Lindsay comes up with, or retirement amount, we're basically canceling that amount
So
out
we're gonna have to.
with
keep doing
those
it every-
funds. For the
Right.
next few years, so
Well, I think after the budget is adopted this year or whatever, it would, you should at least. You should do a resolution to move funds from the tax stabilization reserve to the retirement reserve, that's the
All at
only other
once, yeah.
reserve that you can put it in. Legally, so, you know, at least whatever you're planning on using for 2026.
Yeah.
But you could move most all of it if you wanted, I don't know if there's a requirement to have one
That's what I was wondering, if you could just
at a
do the
minimum.
whole thing now, you know, you're always gonna need
Yes.
retirement reserves.
Yeah, but I would also check to see if you're required
of any tax.
to have a
resolution.
tax stabilization reserve, like what, is there a requirement to have one? And if so, what's the minimum?
I think, like,
We'd probably have to do interpretation, I'm gonna say in regards to your, the rules don't change. The interpretations change, if you think, you know, when the, whatever the policy was written, you know, 40 years ago or whatever. That legal team interpreted it a certain way and that interpretation may have changed over time, but the verbiage is probably the same.
well, if I'm
Probably
remembering,
the lawyers.
if I'm remembering.
Yes, that's you got it.
If I'm remembering offhand correctly, I think it had around 200 something when we put that $1 million into it, so I think that's kind of where it was hanging out.
Yeah,
when we-
it's around
So,
1 million, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, budget transfer for the bond payments, A 237.
So yes, we had budgeted in the 2025 adopted budget, funds. For a bond principal and interest payment. Totaling over 600,000, and Okay.
Yeah,
Around.
Really,
you don't have all this memorized?
586, 578, okay, and then, yeah. And so, there should be a resolution that moves those funds into a bond, into our bond reserve fund, so that way we're not like. Losing money, what'll happen is if it doesn't get paid out, it'll get absorbed in the unassigned fund balance. And, you know, we taxed people on the usage of this money for a bond, so we really should put it into the reserve, so that it will be used for future bonds.
makes sense. Capital project for snow plow funding. I think we talked about that as well.
A little bit, yeah, so we had two snow plows that are being built, well, 3. And they had been purchased or approved by resolution to purchase, but not actually paid for because it takes 2 or 3 years. So the funds that had been originally budgeted rolled into the highway unassigned fund balance. Over the course of the last few years, we tapped in some of that unassigned fund balance for other things. There's not quite enough in there to cover the cost of the plows that we already ordered. So I suggest that we do a resolution to take some of the funds from the unassigned fund balance from highway and some funds from the, let's see. Oh, highway equipment reserve. And create a capital project, so then we have a place when we order a snowplow and we fund the snowplow, that we have a place to move the money and keep it until the plow comes. So that way it doesn't,
Nope.
Somewhere.
this doesn't happen in the future, so obviously,
So,
the problem of waiting two or
Turn into a
three.
road somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously,
It would be a culvert, not a,
this leeway time is not
yeah,
improving,
not a road.
you know, since COVID, it's not, I don't know if it'll ever get better, so you're always gonna be waiting those 3 years, and a lot happens in a few years, and so those,
Keep needing plows, so that's.
yeah, every year.
Probably gonna keep snowing, so.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Well, good.
maybe less time
Only
though.
by
I mean,
a new
it's
plow.
80 degrees
Yeah.
yesterday, it's October.
Yeah, right.
We'll pay for it, so.
It'll even rain out then.
What I'll say is like, after all this is done, it really leaves highway with no reserve.
It does, and
Like-
that was in my email to Jim and Dave, it does. Not leave much in the highway equipment reserve, and so I would suggest
Funding it next year.
funding some replacement, for that reserve
Right.
next year, if at the end, you know, once the year's over, if there is some unassigned fund balance somewhere, I would.
Roll it
And so
into
you
that.
can roll from the AA unassigned fund into the
Correct.
highway unassigned if needed, right?
$9,000 there and one ain't want it.
I'll take it.
You don't offer that yet. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
There's an idea too, you know, if you have any money left in those smaller capital projects.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I got you. The last one is the Ononda Uplands Infrastructure Capital Project.
So that was something, another thing that Jim and I talked about, so ARPA is, where we're funding our current phase of, Ononda. And I would suggest that. Or we talked about having, a separate capital project to move forward with Ononda after.
Or
We did that last year, we never created it.
You know,
No, and then,
Makes
you know, then there's the whole idea of how to fund that, whatever, but.
But we need to create, the accounts, yeah.
Well, when you're creating an account, you really should have a budget, so, there would have to be discussions. This was just some thoughts that came to mind before I leave,
Yeah.
I wanted to pass along.
This is separate from when we talked about the creating the reserve fund, correct, to fund from, shoot, can't remember where.
The CM funds
Yeah,
CM, no, well, that
part,
part, and then
and then you,
open space.
what's the amount we're splitting between Seneca Point Road Culvert and.
that was the,
We,
Okay,
hopefully.
I can guess, right?
I can't remember right
mhm,
now. But this is separate, so this is another capital project,
yeah,
not
oh, I
the
mean,
reserve fund.
right,
But we just need to get a budget for that.
Correct, we need to create the reserve fund. Addition, which doesn't have to be Simon, along with the Seneca Point Road Reserve Fund. To pull in, we have money that we're split in between the two to remove from the 2026 budgets, the 250 for Seneca Point Road Culvert. To then fund these projects.
correct.
So.
Yeah, so
this
you
is-
can keep the money in a reserve fund, but you really, there's not a lot of activity out of a reserve fund, so you would
Yeah.
just. Fund the capital project with the reserve fund.
Oh, cause we're
Capital
ending
project,
the transfer station, that's what,
yes,
we're ending the
yes,
transfer
thank you.
station.
I was like, where is this other big chunk of
I-
money?
I'm freaking burning this in front of me.
Yes,
Can you send us a summary, when I say us, all the people in the finance committee and board members,
okay.
a
Yeah.
summary of all of our reserve funds and capital improvement project reserves that we have? I think that would be helpful for us to
John,
understand.
you
where
could
we-
probably do that, right?
So the reserve funds are on the back of your budget for
The budget that's right here,
we
just
That's,
but
that's the. Is that the
capital
balances or
project.
that's the checking account for that?
Those are the funds, that's the balance of
Yeah.
each of those funds.
Like, it would be like the A 235, A 232.
Yeah. Mhm. Does he have access to that old?
Just having an
document?
up-to-date one of those would be helpful, I think, for us.
You know, the old PowerPoint that that Doug did,
Mhm.
that I would give him a copy of that, cause that was a useful way for people.
I mean, you can run a report, that's your capital project, activity report, yeah, it should show you all your expenses and revenues and tell you what your.
anything else?
Yes. Sorry,
You go ahead and then I'll jump in. Mine are related to Friday, not this, because I have a water meeting on Friday, so yeah, it's easy
Yeah.
over here.
just one that came up after this, so I wasn't gonna. Have the agenda redone, but. So Greg's team was able to, fix the pillars at Academy. There was 1,200 budgeted for the cemetery team to get, those pillars fixed. He couldn't find any contractor that was willing to do a small enough job. And so they just fixed it themselves, there's 1,200 in the cemetery's budget that we'd like to, transfer to, Greg's budget to purchase tools, or if they can use some tools, so,
Are you talking about fence posts, when you say
No.
pillars, what do you mean?
no.
Cement pillars, they
Yeah.
did cement.
Yeah, had to redo some masonry work on it.
Yeah.
It's cracking.
Do we need a resolution to do that?
Should, because you're transferring it from two different
From one line to
budget
another.
areas, rather than spending it out of the cemetery. It should probably go into his budget to then spend on tools.
So we're gonna make a resolution to move that $1,200 to parks.
Yeah, yeah, it's a budget amendment, so
Yeah.
it could be a resolution. And then I did just wanna bring up, it's a future discussion we're gonna need to have probably next month as we close out, hopefully, our renovation project. Is that, I guess it sounds like when the renovation project, capital project was created, there was an initial budget created. However, when we accepted the proposal, when we had to rebid and accept the proposal from Tactical. And then the MRB's initial proposal for engineering costs equals about $850,000. That budget was never actually set for the capital project, so right now we have no other set budget for our town hall renovation other than the original, and so there's only like 600 and something $1,000 that was assigned for this project. So we're gonna need to pull from unassigned fund balance to fund the remainder of the renovation, project, or whatever the total ends up being. Cause we also,
There's some overages, furniture.
yeah, furniture, extra furniture costs and stuff, and so.
So over the 810?
850 was the total that. Between the two contracts, and so yes, it's probably gonna be over 850, although I don't know that for sure yet. Because I don't know where we're at
You don't
with
know
the,
where they are, what those-
with the pay apps, most recent pay apps, but potentially more. So.
850 to 9.
Yeah, I mean, at this point with the project closing, I don't think it's worth assigning a budget to it until we know our total, and then,
But we know we're gonna be over.
yeah. I mean, we're definitely over from what was initially put in there. Yeah.
500.
Because we authorized a contract that was over what was initially put in there, so.
It's not bad considering the whole building costs probably $500,000.
It costs $1 million.
That
for a
bathroom
bathroom.
is nice, that's a pretty.
And again, a lot of that comes as a result of him needing to rebid.
Right.
Because of the.
New York State law.
City
Right.
law, so. But that's why we just discovered the other day, cause I had to, answering a question. For a resident on the budget, and that's what got me looking into it and realizing that we didn't. And Jess and I had previous conversations too about it, realizing that, yeah, I remember somebody telling me the budget was 850, but then not actually finding it in there.
There's no
So,
So we don't need a resolution for that, then we're gonna kind of hold on that. to-
yeah, I just wanted to bring it up now because it's gonna be a significant, transfer, so. But
Something to look forward to.
November I should have hopefully more actual details on the amount.
November's gonna be a big month between gym and renovations.
You guys also, you can, by the way, I was just gonna mention, just to you as a town board, you can put a resolution on your November agenda to have whoever wins on November 4th become instantly a town board
I
member.
think we
If you
agreed
wish
with
to do that,
yeah.
so you probably would wanna pass a resolution to that effect if that's what you wanna do, so.
John, we got the band,
Yeah, it depends.
just a band, figure it out.
Just let me know.
Like to think of that, just hold off on that one.
So the ban, we did, are you talking about like it got bid out and we accepted a bid and?
Yeah.
You might
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, we're-
We have,
Special
we
board
will.
meeting. Yeah.
Closing,
November 5th or 6th.
closing, yeah, closing for the North Road
No, it's
bond is
Bond or band?
ban.
on.
Listen to Jim over here.
Uh,
Got your finance clerk too, right over there.
I know, right?
And
He knows enough to be.
I think the next week or next week, there is the closing on the. Ban, so it will be funded.
Yeah, and we did get a really good rate. They
Yeah.
seemed impressed.
They were very impressed by the town,
yeah, that was very.
2.71
That's
really
amazing,
great.
yeah.
And
So they
then,
said it's one of the best they've seen recently,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
we beat out a school district with like double,
Just
3 times the project that we had.
So that actually, sorry, that. Another thing to quickly bring up, that will also change. The budget slightly. I don't know how much yet, because they haven't provided me the new schedule for the payments based on that rate. But so that will slightly, the positive change,
To our benefit.
the levies. Yeah, I don't know how much, maybe it's nothing, I don't know. It depends on how they build this schedule out. So,
I might ask, because I know it'll be a large amount coming for the work that's being done out there.
Yeah, I know we're a little bit under now, but
yeah,
we should have the money in the account by the time we have our town board meeting.
Looks like your sales taxes were a little higher this year than you budgeted for, so that's positive at least.
Oh, yeah, that's the trend until next year.
So. I just had a call, I have a meeting at the water plant Friday. There are 2 resolutions that I had asked Terry to put on for public works, I just wanted to talk to those real quick if I can. One of them that you'll see is designating the town as a Purple Heart community. That's the first step in allowing us to have that designation. It then allows us to tap into funding to be able to put Purple Heart and veteran banners on the banners coming into town on 332. So that's just a resolution that we're naming ourselves Purple Heart Community. The second one is request, there's a resolution in there that was provided by Nick Langworthy. He has a pro energy choice bill. I can't remember who the Senate sponsor is, but it's a bill basically allowing individuals pro energy choice. So to get away from the electrification mandates and the other things. That is a resolution in support of Langworthy's bill that is going to Congress and I'm putting it out there for discussion. I think it's something that we would support because I think we're very in favor of the energy choice and against the mandates that are coming down. So that will be another one that's on there and those will both be on the November board agenda, on the October board agenda on the 20th. And then I did mention that I met with the part of the cemetery committee and the history team was working with Bristol for the Bristol Flag Day ceremony. It's a 2-day event around the Sester Centennial. Bristol's putting it together, they're hosting it, they're using their facilities. They've asked us to help with $5,000 in funding for advertising for any other costs that they might face. So if we say yes, that wouldn't happen until June. I know that we don't have that in the budget right now. We do have Sester Centennial some, but for our own things. So we wouldn't have to come up with it until June. So at that point, we'll have a better handle. So we might have to pull that out of contingency.
Where is the event gonna take place?
Levi Corser. There, the whole field and spill over into the town hall area.
What are they putting up?
They are putting up the building and the staff and everything else. And I think a small amount of money.
Less than
Not-
5,000?
It will be less than 5,000, yes,
So they want us to put 5 in, but they're putting in less than 5.
yes. I believe, I need to find out more from Leaf as to where they are. They don't have as much, and they have some negativity with some current electeds there who aren't the supervisor about the activities. And they're just trying to make sure that they get done.
So they're asking their big sister.
Yeah,
Up the-
and I know that, and somehow Greg will be sucked in to all events Bristol. too.
Well, we didn't fund the library.
We have library money, that's what you're saying?
So we have that money that we
It's-
did
it's all-
spend.
It's
That
all,
we can't fund here.
it's all because we're still making pay for those water properties, that's what.
Not to help us with our sesquicentennial.
And we
The
told.
fireworks. Fireworks.
No, I mean, the financial support,
Mhm.
how about $5,000?
It sounds like if we're putting up 15, they ought to put up 30.
All right,
Oh, and I forgot one too, cause I didn't get it until recently, but, I'll be putting a resolution on for, a proposal from Lumsden and McCormick, they're the auditors that we had the last 3 years. They're still, you know, a very good value in what they provide. I think they're still under cost of what our previous auditor was charging.
Broke up for us.
So they did submit a proposal, so you guys can review that.
They know us, we know them, sounds like it's.
They're doing a good job.
And they're very easy to work with,
Yeah, they're very.
They are.
And we
They're very
contract
easy.
with them to help train whoever's replacing you.
Anything else? Again, Jess, thank you for your.
Yeah.
diligence to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be missed.
Yeah.
You will be missed,
Will be missed.
but thank you.
Not just for the numbers, but for you. You know, it was really,
Your car will be happy.
Yeah.
I know, right?
No, I am.
Yeah, how much
I'm not
gas
happy, I know, I can see it on your
I'm
face.
still wondering though, would it have been cheaper to
I know what
get
it's
a
like to use the
helicopter
key
for
first.
Chad?
So the next meeting is November 5th at 9, and I don't know where it'll be, probably here.
I will not be here for that one for
Okay.
obvious reasons, so.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Gonna be an exciting day.
Yeah.
Just a motion to adjourn.
So,
All in favor?
I, did you say
Thank you
that?
all for coming.
I was making the motion at the same